and welcome back to Keeping It 100. I'm your talk show host, Dr. Lent Carr. I'm so excited you've joined us today for another exciting day in talk. Today, we would like to talk to you on a very, very intricate subject, a very important subject, if you will, and that subject is welcome to the land of a second chance, the United States of America. So often in this country, we talk about giving individuals a second chance to survive, a second chance to live, a second chance to make something of oneself. However, I found it very ironic that when we deal with our individuals who have been incarcerated or who have had some sort of tentative measures or connections with the law, we seem as if, as Americans, that we do not want to give them a second chance. And for whatever reason that is and how this has been designed and set up, it is a very appalling thing, especially when we talk about a land that we call the home of the free and the land of the brave. Now, what I have looked at on this subject as I've done some extensive research is that we have so many young folk and so many men and women in particular who are in the Federal Bureau of Prison and in local and state prisons. And when they arrive from prison, it seems as if they have no opportunity in sight to make it in life. And a lot of them, most have at least 3 children, and we expect them, men and women, to be able to take care of their children on the mere air. But I say to you that it is impossible, impractical, and downright delusional for individuals to think who sit in elective office that it is okay when these individuals are released from prison and they have no recourse of survival. Well, we say to our elected officials, or the elected officials may say, well, it is not our fault. It is not our problem. And maybe you even may say that this isn't your problem. But I beg you to differ this morning. This problem is a national problem. And this is a problem that we must address and we must have a national discussion on. Because so many are released from prison every day, but when they're released from prison, they can't even find a job. Well, I asked myself, I said, why do you have so many individuals released from prison and they can't find jobs, they can't find stable homes, and there's so many things that they cannot obtain. Why? Because of their criminal history and their criminal record being reflected on a national and a local level. When they go for a job hunt and try to secure employment, they can't find gainful employment because the way the system has been set up, you have to check a box on application. And by checking that box on application, it is, in my estimation, that is one of the most discriminative things that have been done in America, whereby we offer to these individuals released from federal prison double jeopardy. That's right, double jeopardy. Double jeopardy to do your time in which you were sentenced for and convicted of, and then they receive jeopardy once they're released. And matter of fact, I'm not afraid to say that these individuals are prisoners for life. Yes, when we look at our United States Constitution, we look at the article that dealt with slaves, when the slaves were entrenched into heavy slavery here in this country during the American slave Holocaust. These individuals, they were in slavery, and when President Lincoln was in office, of course, all of us know the story. We were freed from slavery. However, in that same Constitution, in that same article, we see that slavery was abolished, and it says something like this, that slavery has been abolished today, however, with the exception of those who are in prison. And true enough, and that Constitution amendment has stood true to its clause. Yes, once you go into prison and you are released from prison, you are a prisoner for life. Well, some may question that analysis that I've produced. But if you look and do your research, you will see that individuals who go to prison, they are sentenced to a prison term. Then once they have successfully completed their prison term, they are released from prison. Well, it don't stop there. Those individuals, they have to go on a job hunt, what we call a job hunt, and they have to find gainful employment in order to survive. However, most of the time when they go out and apply for gainful employment, some even have degrees. have degrees to work in on a professional level, or have degrees to work in some sort of IT tech division. But they can't secure those jobs because of their past criminal records. Well, I say today that if we're going to hold up this banner, this wide open banner, that this is the land of a second chance, then I say to you as Americans and as citizens of America, let's provide those individuals with a second chance. Now, here's some of the benefits that we gain as American citizens for offering those individuals a second chance to life. One, we don't have to deal with high crime rates in our communities. Crime rates are high in our community because when individuals can't find employment, sustained and gainful employment, they will go back and commit a crime in order to survive. Well, then another benefit that we find that we could easily secure is that once we have individuals employed, we have taxes. There are taxes, state and federal taxes, that are taken out of each individual's check, and by taking those taxes out, actually we can do a lot of things in our communities. Then when I look at another benefit, the benefit that I think is that weigh on me the most is the benefit of seeing our brothers and our sisters not returning back to prison. And here in America, we talk about recidivism. Recidivism is essentially going back and forth to prison. You come out of prison 1 year and then you're back in prison the following year. Well, I say to you as Americans, if we do our part, I believe that we can keep a lot of our young folk out of the prisons. I believe that we can actually change some lives right here in the United States of America. Now, I think it is another issue that we need to touch on dealing with this subject, and it is dealing specifically with you who are in the church. Yes, I'm talking about us Christians. Christians, a lot of times we have certain prejudices. We don't talk about it extensively, but our actions do show. Once we find out that someone's been to prison, we have the tendency to sit back and look at them with a wary eye. My thing is, especially you as Christians, you should have a heart that's open to offer a second chance to those who otherwise wouldn't have a chance at all. You shouldn't sit back in judgment on those individuals, because the same way that Jesus ducked down and wrote into the sand when the woman was caught in adultery, he says the same things to you. He without sin, she without sin, let them cast the first stone. Now, I look back over my battle-scarred life as a young man. I went through major changes in my life, and during those changes, I realized that if it had not been for God who was on my side, I don't know what I would have done, because, as I said, when I come home, I found out that this wasn't a land of a second chance. Actually, this was a land of ridicule, a land of judgment, a land of you can't. But I decided within myself that I was going to make it, that I was going to actually survive and do things in a legal manner, in a right manner, and do things according to the principles of the Word of God. Now, some may say, what are you talking about, Dr. Carr? We hear you on the talk show. You talk about a lot of different good and plausible issues. You're dealing with a subject today that's dealing with imprisonment. And yet and still you're talking as if you've been to prison. Well, my friends, today, for you that do not know all the logistics about myself and the things that I endured in life, yes, I did. I was one that went to prison as a young man. And during my tenure and stay in prison, I was in prison for 11 years, and I fought and I continued to fight because I knew that the crime that I was incarcerated for, I was not guilty of. However, during that period of time, I had resolved within myself that once I was released, I wasn't going to allow anyone to hold me down. I wasn't going to allow anyone to tell me what I can and can't do. Because one thing I've learned, if I learned anything in this country, that is that you can do anything that you put your mind to do. Now, serving a prison term of 11 years, it was a very hard transition for me. Coming home in 2008, I did not know, because things had changed so much and people have changed, and the system had even changed even more. But one thing I did find out that didn't change was the mere fact that people hadn't changed with their prejudices. Though I had been in the ministry for many, many years, I realized that people, even in the church, looked at me with a wary eye and they stepped back in judgment. But one of the things that I did as an individual who have a resolve to make it in life is I said that regardless of what people say or how they feel about me, I know who I am, I know who I serve, and I know where I'm going. Now, after my vindication, being vindicated by the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeal, where, as I said, a crime I was found not guilty of and found that I did not commit, coming home was a very tedious thing for me. And sitting back and, you're trying to map in your mind, how am I going to do this and how am I going to do that? Well, I found out that even with my extensive history in education and regardless of all of my different degrees that I had, I was turning down job after job and employment after employment. However, I refused to give up. And to you today, if you're listening and you've been incarcerated and you understand where I'm coming from today, I say to you, don't give up. Hold your head up high. Know that you can make it because you can do it because of the mere fact that God said you can do all things through him who strengthens you. Now, I come out of prison, and as I said, when I arrived home, I did not know what I was going to do because, there wasn't churches out there offering me, any assistance. There wasn't citizenry groups out there that was developed to help me to get my footing back. And there was very little family members waiting to assist me. So what did I have to do? I had to make a determination. I had to make a decision. Will I fall or will I rise? I made the decision that I would rise. And today, I look back at 2008 and the years that I spent in federal prison, and I say, I am extremely proud that God has given me that resolve to make it. I've accomplished a lot of things since my release from Federal Bureau of Prisons. I've done the things that I said that I would do once I was released from prison. And though, some may say, well, listen, Dr. Carr, you was found not guilty of the crime. You're different than the other individuals who go to prison. No, absolutely not. I am no different than they are, and you are either. Well, one of the things that we need to look at that, there are things that a lot of us have done in life that some of us got called for and some of us did not. And so you shouldn't sit back with a judgment eye. You should sit back with a hand to say, let me help you out. Now, the only time, and I heard a songwriter say one time, that the only time that you should look down on a man is when you're helping him up. And I say to you Americans today, will you help your brother? Will you help your sister? Will you help them up out of the muck and miry clay? Will you help them to rise above and not to sink? Will you sit back and say, you can do this, you can make it, let me offer my hand, let me help you, and offer the support that they need. Now, in the United States, I look at another issue that we've dealt with, and again, we say that we have so many men and women and young men and women at that in prisons for crack cocaine and cocaine powder. Well, as many of you are very aware that we've dealt with that issue for quite some time until the Supreme Court was able to hear that issue under Blakely versus New Jersey. Now, even in that case, we found out that under the 100-to-1 ratio is what they called it, was disproportionately placed. Well, what I'm actually offering to you is that we have young men that are in prison, African American men, who are still in prison even today, that was sentenced under those laws. And those laws said that you will receive 20 years to life. Now, that was for crack cocaine. Now, but when we look at our counterparts community, whereby a lot of the young people there was dealing with whether they had kilos of powder cocaine, they received a mere slap on the wrist, receiving a year to 3 years in prison. Well, I'm so glad that the Sentencing Commission saw the wisdom in renewing a look at that issue and doing something about that issue under a remedial solution. But still, and even at that, we have young men and women still in prison under those same stringent laws that were placed upon them. Well, why am I bringing this up? Here's the reason I bring this up. Here in America, though we don't have a second chance, it's very rare if one do have a second chance, there are laws that are on the books that disproportionately affect the African American community. The problem that we face with the cocaine law that was set in place was individuals were caught with cocaine, of course, and they were caught with crack cocaine in the African American community. Well, what we found out was that the mere fact that individuals receiving different sentences and under the same, having essentially the same drugs was something that shouldn't have been in the United States of America. And when those individuals, and a lot of them are being released now who have pulled those 10 plus 20 and more years in past, and but now they're seeking out help, asking, how can we make it through? How can we see the light of day, if you will? What is it that we can do in order to survive? Do we say to them and look them in the eye today and say, you know, you have to figure this thing out for yourself, or you have to somehow ask yourself, you know, what is it that I can do? Well, I say to you Americans, that isn't something that we should do as Americans. As Americans, we should be ready to run to their aid and assist them and show them that there's a better way for you. There is a brighter day for you, irrespective that you've committed a crime, irrespective that you've done time in prison. You are someone that can make it to see another day. Now, I also look at this issue in this light. With our churches, I appeal to our churches today, and I ask our churches, please, sir, please, ma'am, drop your prejudices and your discriminatory practices dealing with individuals who've been to prison. Know that if you haven't been to prison, you have someone that's very dear to you or very close to you who've had some sort of encounter with the law. And if you've never been to prison, you don't know tomorrow your son or your daughter may have some sort of encounter with the law. So therefore, we must look at this thing, not that we're so good or that we're so perfect, but we must look at this thing in the light that this is a global disease right here in the United States of America that needs fixing. And until we fix that problem of the disparity in our sentencing laws, we need individuals out there, especially our churches, to stand up and say that I'll be there for you. I'll help you. I'll help you to survive. I'll help you to rise. I'll help you if you want to get your GED. I'll help you if you need to get some sort of residence to stay in. I'll help you if you need a ride to find employment. I'll help you if I own a business, I can give you a job to find